Hey, welcome to another episode of Finding Freedom right here on the Lions of Liberty Podcast Network. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of the conservative movement, the future of maybe the Republican Party, but more importantly, drilling down into discovering, does MAGA, Make America Great Again, or MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, have more legs going forward? We'll look at wins, losses, promises kept, things like that, and really see what's the future here. Is the future MAGA or is the future MAHA? Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Finding Freedom here on the Lions of Liberty Podcast Network. I am your host, John Odermatt. Happy to be here with you today. And if you can tell by my voice, I do have a little bit of a cold, I guess they say, under the umbrella of colds, although it's been kind of a very weird experience here over the past couple days. Went from today's Monday. I'm recording this late Monday because of this cold. And my guest, unfortunately, that I was going to record with on Friday had to cancel because they were very sick the past week and just were unable to do it. But we will get that interview in hopefully later this week. But yeah, so a cold hit me on, I guess, Friday. I started feeling the tickle in my throat. Of course, I believe in supplementation. I believe in using things like vitamin D and NAC and quercetin and a whole array of health supplements. When I do get that tickle, zinc, when I do get that tickle in my throat. So I started taking everything, and I already do obviously have a very, I guess, I don't know, not very extensive. I know people would take a lot more supplements than I do, but I take my gut health supplements. I take my detox supplements. So my immune system in itself is I think very, very well functioning, very healthy. So Friday I get the tickle in the throat. Saturday, things seem like they're pretty normal. I think maybe I'm beating this. And then Saturday night, I just get hit like out of nowhere right before I go to sleep with the worst pain in my throat I can remember feeling. I'm like, what? Do I have strep throat? What's happening? So immediately went to gargling salt water, and that seemed to do the trick. Went to sleep, felt good, woke up Sunday morning and couldn't talk. So that was nice, but oddly enough, gargled more salt water. Sunday, I had zero symptoms after doing that. My throat pain totally went away. And I'm like, wow, I beat this. And then I woke up today and my throat feels fine, but you can hear my voice is struggling a little bit. So hopefully I'm almost out of the woods here. I feel fantastic. I don't feel sick at all, but you can definitely tell I'm battling something. So kind of goes with the theme for today's show. Make America Healthy Again. Is it going to outlast? Is it going to beat? Is it going to win and carry the mantle over the Make America Great Again movement? And we'll get into that. This won't be a super long show, but I have some thoughts about each of these two movements. Before I get into that, I want to talk about Fox and Sons coffee. Delicious coffee. The Fox and Sons brand was created by my friend and fellow entrepreneur, Stephen Fox, in order to help his son learn about entrepreneurship, the ins and the outs, and the ups and the downs. So support someone who is living this finding freedom, I guess, life that I preach here on this show. He's living it out and teaching it to his son through this coffee brand, Fox and Sons Coffee. So go buy some coffee, foxandsons.com. That's FOXN SONS.com. Get 15% off an order of $40 or more using promo code JOHN. That's JOHN at checkout. Go buy some coffee. Okay, so the central question for today: what's going to win out in the end? Of course, we've kind of seen over the past several months here, the MAGA movement has absolutely lost some steam. There's infighting, questions about the future. Trump can't be president forever. At least I don't think so. He only has, a little more than 3 years left as president. Who takes the mantle from there? Is it really the same movement if Donald Trump is not at the helm of it? Let me get a quick drink here. So let's talk a little bit about the MAGA movement first. So I am going to go through campaign promises for MAGA, promises that have kind of been made in the private sector and in the public sector around MAHA, and kind of wrap everything up and look at what does the future look like. And really, this MAHA movement, this Make America Healthy Again movement, is this something that can be bipartisan and that maybe a more moderate candidate who isn't extreme right, extreme left could take up as a mantle and really gain some traction, especially with the younger demographic that there is in the MAHA movement. But breaking down Make America Great Again, of course, led by Donald Trump, the focus has always been America first, right? Well, until recently, when it seems to have been co-opted by Israel first, but more on that in a moment. It's always been strong border, right? Trump campaigned on mass deportations, anti-globalism. Let's make things here. Trump, of course, wanted to do that and wants to do that by tariffing other countries and making things fair, as he says. An even playing field. He wants to restore America's strength across the globe. Of course, he's got a Republican streak to him, so he says he'll do that by strengthening our military, which, of course, if you consider strengthening the military, spending more money on it, Trump has absolutely done that. Some of Trump's major campaign promises. Now, you could debate the order of these. You could throw other ones in. You could take these out. It's hard to tell with Donald Trump because when he speaks and when he was campaigning especially, he would weave, man. He would weave in and out all over the place, going off script, going off the teleprompter. But I think most people would agree that these 5 were talked about frequently while he was campaigning to be president. The third campaign for president in 2024, mass deportations. He campaigned for a protectionist trade, tariffs, and tax cuts. He campaigned for energy dominance, wanted to roll back environmental regulations and make America energy independent. He wanted to expand executive power. Of course, the left pushed back on this and said he wanted to be a king, and this is followed with all these No Kings protests. We'll see where that stands. And he said it many times when he was campaigning. He said that he wanted to end, and he said he would end the Ukraine-Russia war with just a phone call in 24 hours, less than a week. He said he could do it, which, of course, he hasn't done it, but more on that later. And then the MAHA movement. So where did this movement come from? What is it? Of course, center on health freedom. Really, it grew its legs out of COVID. These people have always been there. The homeopathics, the homeschoolers, the anti-vaxxers, people who believe in natural supplementation, people who believe in eating real foods. Those people have always been there, but there never was really a unifying calling. And I think Make America Healthy Again has been, and I think it's in the very early stages of becoming a very, very powerful political force and also a market force, as we're already seeing in this country. The thing that's interesting about it is, there's not a figurehead, right? There's not a Donald Trump at the top of it. So there's very much grassroots elements to Make America Healthy Again. It's more cultural. Cannot talk today. It's more culture. That's a tough word to say. It's about a lifestyle. It's about a healthy lifestyle, right? So I would say there's degrees of make America healthy again, right? You go all the way from um, you know totally anti-vax and um, natural wellness and full bodily autonomy. Well, full bodily autonomy, that's probably more across the board. And then you have mixtures of it. People who would say they're on board with make America healthy again, who maybe are in favor of some vaccinations, things like that. So there's no like standard set of principles when it comes to making America healthy again. So digging into wins and losses, the current status of each of these movements. The wins, of course, Donald Trump won. He won the election with probably the biggest coalition across with MAGA, with Make America Healthy again being one of them, across the board. And, I think that another one of the campaign promises that maybe wasn't talked about a lot by Trump himself, but was talked about a lot of people who are now in his administration was, uncovering all of this mess in the deep state, and sort of with like a calling card for that being the Epstein files, and the failure of Trump to do anything with the Epstein files, and even to laugh and mock people who say that they want to release the Epstein files, I think has been Trump's biggest undoing up until this point. And it's crazy to say that because we're only 10 months into his to the first year of his second term, but things recently, especially, I think, feel very deflated in MAGA town. Uh, Trump always could boast having the most loyalty. They said the first time he ran that he could shoot someone in the street and people would still support him. And I think he still has a lot of that support. But the problem is he's losing that coalition that he built, the coalition that got him elected in 2024. That same coalition is needed to win the midterms in 2026, and it's not there. It's evaporated, it's gone. And a lot of that has to do with Trump not following through on his promises. He was able to attract many different types of voters, working class voters, health centric voters, um, people who wanted to uncover the truth. What's really happened here with COVID? People wanted to know. They want to get to the bottom of COVID, where it came from, get to the bottom of the vaccine. Of course, that was never going to happen with the vaccine, as we know, because Donald Trump, being the architect of Operation Warp Speed and being an egomaniac, would never call into question something that was his child, something that he ushered in, because that would make him look bad. So Trump doesn't really have a way to dismantle the vaccine, COVID, without looking bad himself. So he's just not going to do it. And that's been a bad look for him. And maybe that was never going to be a win for him the whole time. Maybe that got him elected and he would have to find another way to bring those types of people on board. MAHA. So the MAHA movement, I think there's been a lot of wins. There's been a lot of progress over the past 10 months. And I don't think it's all, really none of it is based on federal legislation that has passed. But there's, everywhere you look, there is a growing surge in distrust for big pharma, the CDC, the WHO. The demand for natural healing products, detox, functional medicine, metabolic health, it's through the roof. Millions are moving towards non-pharma solutions, looking for gut health solutions, detox, regenerative therapy. Even I've talked recently with John A. Richardson Jr. About some ways to help with treating the C word, vitamin B17, also known as Laetrile. So there's a lot, I think a lot of momentum, a lot of wheels are turning Will it gain the steam ultimately to make massive change in this country? Is more support needed from Trump, from the MAGA movement to help MAHA to get there? Could this all fall apart, both MAGA and MAHA, if Trump doesn't change course and we end up with a Democrat in office in 2028? I think that's all very possible. I want to do a deep dive right now into campaign promises around what Donald Trump promised, what Make America Great Again promised his third time running for office in 2024, and really where those promises are now, because I think a lack of Trump staying true to what he promised, I think that has eroded a lot of his credibility. And people love the personality of Trump. They love the entertainment factor of Trump. They love how he just kind of seems like a guy who, can relate to them. He seems like one of the guys, even though he's a billionaire, super successful. I feel like the everyday average voter feels like they can relate to Donald Trump. But that ability to relate to people only takes you so far. If you don't follow through on promises, they're going to be done with you. So, mass deportations, immigration crackdown, ramping up border security. This was a big part of Trump's first, second, and third run. On this third run, I think, deportations have definitely ramped up and increased. Large scale ICE operations are now taking place in several U.S. cities. The administration is prioritizing removal operations for sure. The rhetoric and the reality around mass deportations has changed from Biden to Trump in 2024, but we're nowhere close to what Trump actually campaigned on. He campaigned on millions of removals. The wall construction, the wall is not dramatically expanded, although, of course, immigration is basically down to zero. So, I would give this a partial win grade. So there's been a lot of rhetoric, even more so than what's actually happened. The Democrats and, a lot of Democrat-aligned media sources and influencers are kind of showing these deportations, I think, for more than they are, trying to play it up to their base to win votes. In reality, I don't know. I think the vast majority of Americans wanted deportations, so I don't think playing it up is helping them. Unfortunately, I think by the left playing it up and making it look like there's way more deportations happening, I think that's making it look like Trump is fulfilling this promise, which I don't think he is. And this is one big reason why I voted for Trump, and also one of the big reasons why I really don't consider myself a libertarian anymore, because I really feel like in this country, we need mass deportations, especially of criminals, people with criminal records, need to be removed from this country. Okay, next up, protectionist economy, tariffs, trade, and tax cuts, the three T's. I think when Donald Trump ran for office, they didn't take him people didn't take him seriously on tariffs. I think a lot of people thought it was just a negotiating tool. And maybe Trump thought that at first. But I think more that Trump learned about tariffs, I think he got kind of maybe caught up in the motion of it all and seeing the tax revenue that could be brought in. And whether you agree or disagree with tariffs, it has increased the revenue brought into this country to this point, and to this point has not drastically caused inflation or a raising of prices. I'm not someone who supports tariffs, but I am someone who understands that sometimes, if other countries are going to use protectionist measures against you, you have to use protectionist measures back against them. So I think Trump has done a fairly good job of using tariffs as a negotiating tool. Yeah, the unfortunate thing is it's been very, very chaotic, the implementation of it. Um, Unfortunately, the market, entrepreneurs, people building businesses, they need certainty. They need to know which direction they're going in. And for 10 months, they haven't had that. So, you can call it, I would call it from a directional standpoint on tariffs, at least. Trump is delivering on what he promised. And I think a lot of people forget that he promised tariffs. So whether you disagree or agree with tariffs, he is fulfilling that promise. Um, I think, unfortunately, it has definitely brought in a lot of unpredictability to the marketplace, especially with regards to China. And unfortunately, I think that's going to continue. Maybe it needs to happen to a certain extent. We could talk about that on another show. Really, this show is focused on the MAGA movement. Is Trump meeting his promises? From a tax cut standpoint, I don't see it. I mean, they were able to maintain through legislation the original Trump tax cuts. They will not expire, but I want more tax cuts, man. I don't see them. There's been no major tax cut package passed. I don't think I've seen a tax cut package talked about. I've seen nothing talked about with tax cuts with regard to small businesses, things of that nature. I think it's very unfortunate. That's a big failure. So, on this number two, the three T's: tariffs, trade, and tax cuts, I would give him an incomplete, really. Um, well, you could say a partial plus and incomplete on the tax cut side. So maybe it's two grades. So he's partially delivered on the tariffs, and there's been some deals struck there, some positive things, I think. China's still very much not settled. Maybe never will be. Then on the tax cut side, just not there. So overall, really, just the sense around it, I think, is probably promise not kept. Maybe a big part of that being because people didn't believe Trump was actually going to follow through with the tariffs. Unleashing American energy. So this one, I've talked about the nuclear aspect of this, nuclear energy, nuclear power on previous shows. And, Trump talked about massive expansion of fossil fuels as well and removing climate driven regulations. What success would have looked like would be, obviously higher production numbers by now from a fossil fuel standpoint, rapid rollback of EV mandates, pipeline approvals, lower energy prices, nuclear regulatory cuts, nuclear project funding, things of that nature. Have we seen it? We've seen some of it. We've seen a strong push towards fossil fuel production. We've seen some regulatory rollback within several agencies. The industry is signaling optimism for sure compared to the Biden years. But I feel like we're kind of stalled out. So from a regulatory standpoint, there's been a lot of court challenges. A lot of these actions just have long, long lead times. Let me get a quick drink here. I like to talk about nuclear. There was some regulation passed around streamlining the NRC and approvals of nuclear power plant designs, right? And that can be put in place. There was some turnover on the NRC board, which I guess that's good. You've seen a lot of small modular reactor (SMR) nuke stocks bubble way up and now come crashing back down, which has been painful for me to watch as a large stockholder of all of them. I should have sold, I guess, or maybe not. Who knows what will happen? But the investment, talking about is the investment there? Is it coming? I don't know. I guess we'll see. They've talked about more investment from the federal government into nuclear power, and I don't want to see as a free market guy. I don't necessarily want to see the federal government invest in nuclear power. The thing is, with the AI arms race, the need for data centers, lack of skilled labor that we have here in this country for building these data centers and building these power plants, In order to attract that labor, you're gonna have to spend a lot of money. You're probably gonna have to bring in people from other countries to build them. It's not gonna be easy. So I think the federal government has to get involved if we want to stay on pace with the rest of the world. Number four, restructuring the bureaucracy, ending woke programs. So the promise was shrinking the federal workforce, removing DEI programs, restoring stronger presidential controls, overhauling the Department of Education. So Doge, of course, early on, things looked great. Elon Musk was in there. He had his gang of Gen Z computer wizards doing some things, big balls and the whole team. And things just kind of fizzled out, man. We saw a lot of waste exposed. We didn't see really anything enacted of major substance from a legislation standpoint. So it's been frustrating to watch. Did I give a grade on the last one? Unleashing American Energy. I would say we're on track with that. It's just too early to tell. Too early to tell from a standpoint. The lead time's too long. Bouncing back to restructuring bureaucracy. I think just the general tone with ending woke programs has been awesome, even outside of the federal government. Having an administration that is not woke has been awesome, I think, for this country, for people who maybe felt like, oh man, we got to go along with this. We got to go along with this woke crap. We got to go along with putting pronouns in our email or in our sign off, whatever. I think just not having that now in this administration has done wonders. That's single fact. And that is a big reason I voted for Trump. So from a restructuring standpoint, there's been some. There's definitely been movement on DEI removal in federal agencies. There's been hiring freezes. There's been administrative tightening in several departments. There's a different philosophical direction, which is good. 10 months in, that's a good thing. But there has not been any large-scale agency restructuring, maybe aside from the Department of Education. Elimination of entire departments hasn't happened. And, court challenges and more court challenges, are going to come with any major workforce overhaul. So I'll give Trump a partial win here. 10 months in, I don't know if you can expect much more from him. It's good direction on it, but a lot to get done to get it across the finish line. And I don't even know if it's possible for him to, especially if they get blown up in the midterms. Last one, Ukraine-Russia war. This one just sucks, man. I mean, this is one that I love the way Trump talked about it campaigning. Let's just get in there and stop the killing, right? Let's stop people from killing each other. The problem is you have lunatics on both sides. A win would look like a ceasefire, some sort of negotiation where the killing stops. Maybe you got to give some of the Ukrainian land to Russia. The bottom line here is these are a people, and I had Vin Armani on Cyprian on several years ago talking about this conflict and talking about how this is more loyalty in this area, Ukraine, Russia, is based upon what church you're a member of, rather than what country you are in. And it's been crazy to see what Zelensky has done, imprisoning Russian Orthodox priests and basically taking the churches and shutting them down. The draft that both countries have utilized in order to send young men to the front lines to be killed. The drone warfare, just crazy, man. And I'll say one thing, kind of, not on point, but I think important to say. It's crazy. Two countries that are getting a lot of experience with drone warfare are Russia and Ukraine. Of course, Ukraine using our drones, but they're getting a lot of experience. This is the future of warfare. And if anything, we should be worried about the amount of experience Russia is getting with drone warfare, because if this is the future warfare, and it probably is, it is terrifying, man. Have one of these little freaking drones fly up to your house, snipe you in your window, drop a little bomb on you as you're out walking your dog. This stuff is scary, man. Future of warfare is scary. And I do think Trump thought he could get in and get this done. I don't think he realized that he was dealing with two total psychopaths who cannot be reasoned with. Zelensky is totally out of control. I listened to a recent Tucker Carlson podcast where he brought on the guy to interview the guy who's running against Lindsey Graham. And Tucker was talking about, and I think this is important for this conversation today here too. Donald Trump's only going to serve through 2028. He's not going to be president after that. He can tease it. He can talk about it. He can laugh and chuckle and say he wants to run for a third term. It's not going to happen. What comes after? What comes next? What comes next for the MAGA movement? Is it the Lindsey Grahams of the world, the neocons, the John McCains? Of course, not John McCain himself. He's passed away. But those types of people, the types of people who spend more time in Ukraine and Israel, like Lindsey Graham, than they do in their home state of South Carolina. Those types of people, Lindsey Graham, who says that, we're doing a good job. We're cutting taxes and we're killing the right people. That's just sick. And, if you could say what you want about Donald Trump, one of the best things he has done to this point is he had changed the conversation. He had changed the way that the Republican Party was operating, that the neocons were not in control. They did not lead the conversations in the room. The unfortunate thing, and I think that has a lot of people right now kind of questioning, is this MAGA movement just going to blow up? It's that the neocons seem to be back in control of Donald Trump. And that shines through with this last point, the Russia-Ukraine war. Of course, Israel-Palestine shines with that too. You can kind of lump these two together with campaign promises. Of course, there's been a ceasefire with Israel-Palestine, but the future of peace there, the prospects do not look good. So it's a shame, but that's where we are with MAGA. And the other piece to MAGA, of course, is the Epstein files and the crazy things Donald Trump's been saying about it, saying that it's a hoax and the Epstein files are a hoax. And then the recent thing, these weird emails being released from Jeffrey Epstein, and I guess he's talking to his brother and joking about Donald Trump blowing Bill Clinton. And what is happening here? Like, what world are we living in? Is that why Trump didn't want the Epstein files out? Because stuff like that's in there. Do I think Donald Trump blew Bill Clinton? No, I don't. I'm not an idiot. I also don't think there was a P tape, in the Russia hoax, which there wasn't. Which is why I think Donald Trump is kind of referring to the Epstein files as it's another Russia hoax, because it might have some weird things in there like that about Donald Trump or his family that the left can spin and make him look bad. And anything that's going to make Donald Trump look a little bit bad, he's not going to want to talk about. He doesn't want in the public, which is sickening to think about, that we could be bringing people to justice who have carried out terrible crimes against children, but Donald Trump doesn't want to look bad. So it's messed up, and there's no good guys. There's no good guys in this thing, man. Or are the people from MAHA? Are they our hope? Is that movement the hope going forward? So just talking about MAHA for a little bit here, the performance of the MAHA movement, promise versus performance. So I think, when we had RFK Jr. go out and endorse Donald Trump, there were a lot of things that he talked about. He talked about the mismanagement of COVID. He talked about vaccines. He talked about the food supply being poisoned. He talked about pharmaceutical companies and the price of drugs and everything that's going wrong there. So definitely there was momentum behind a shift of U.S. healthcare from disease management to prevention and wellness. Are we seeing a shift there? Maybe. There was an executive order in February of 2025 which created a MAHA commission that was to be chaired by RFK Jr. to examine chronic conditions and prescription medication issues. The commission released its Make Our Children Healthy Again assessment in May 2025, which focused on ultra processed foods, chemical exposures, and prescriptions. That was one of the catalysts that has led a lot of private companies to change additives in food. And we'll talk about that more later. But unfortunately, there has not been major structural reforms. And I don't know if that's coming. It's only 10 months in, so I can't really say that I would expect it by now. Nothing's been clearly implemented on the federal side from a regulatory standpoint on these companies. A lot of what's been put in place from RFK Jr. as the head of HHS, they've actually been just volunteer requests on changes for these mega food corporations. So some critics say that the assessment lacked rigorous science or actionable policy in key chronic disease areas. Rigorous science. Rigorous science is scientists doing the science of the person who's paying them. So I think over time, the truth in science, the truth wins out. I'm not big on this study, that study. I look at all the studies, but holding one study up above the rest because it's peer reviewed or this or that, or it's from Harvard or it's from Yale, or that doesn't sway me. Things like that don't sway me. If you have many studies like that, and it's a good, many curated studies with good evidence, then sure, I think anybody should look at that. The verdict on this first one, I will say partial win, but there's just such a major transformation needed. And I'm reading Fiat Food now. It's an excellent book. I recommend everybody read it. And you really get a great idea of how this country was, the food supply, the pharmaceutical companies, how they were taken over by these major corporations, and how they did it by funding studies at the college level to get their intended results, which led to legislation, which led to protectionist rules and regulations that helped them to grow and to become the dominant players in their field in big food and big pharma. That's crazy. And did you know that the Kellogg brothers, they were 7-day Adventists, and their big thing was why they created the Kellogg's cornflake was as a way to halt, to lessen the sex drive of young men and women, so they wouldn't have sex. They wanted to make very, very bland food, so people would stop having sex, because they thought that was one of the things that led to health issues and cancers and things like that. That along with eating meat, and it's highly recommend reading Fiat Food. Great book. You're going to learn a lot. Anyway, when the older Kellogg brother passed away, the younger Kellogg brother added sugar and abandoned really everything and just became a capitalist and made a bunch of money selling sugar. But it's crazy how things happen. So speaking of that, food system reform around regulations, pesticides, healthy nutrition access. So what's happened? So the commission assessment cited ultra-processed food, chemical exposures, prescriptions as children's health threats. The movement gained visibility and has attracted a political identity within the MAGA aligned base. Of course, I think people recognize that MAHA is a big part of MAGA. Is it going to overtake MAGA? I don't know. Um, so the major wins here have been around private companies really seeing the writing on the wall. So I think it's been as much as a market win, people, um, voting with their dollars, as it has been a political win. I will say this though, I don't think that we would see what we've seen with major companies like Pepsi and Coke, taking artificial dyes out of their products if Donald Trump hadn't won and put RFK Jr. in power. I don't think we would have seen these changes. I don't think the market could have done this by itself. A lot of different reasons go into that. Mainly because it comes from the threat of the protectionism. If that protection's taken away and they're exposed, then it's a free for all. So, okay, next one. Vaccine transparency. MAHA has emphasized vaccine transparency, more patient choice, scrutiny of vaccine schedules, integrated complementary medicine alongside conventional approaches. So, what's happened? RFK Jr. became HHS secretary in February of 2025. So, MAHA has a seat at the table. MAHA's public narrative has emphasized these two themes: preventative care, environmental health, and alternative approaches. These three themes, I should say. So, yes, there's been some progress, right? Unfortunately, we haven't seen major changes to vaccine schedules. We've seen, the recommended COVID vaccines for children. That's no longer there, which that's fantastic. I think people were hoping for more and more, and I think we've also seen vaccines being recommended for COVID has been taken away from everything except over 65 and sickly. I could be wrong, but I think those changes were made as well. I think people were hoping for more progress around this, more transparency. We haven't seen it, and I think that comes down to just the power of these pharmaceutical companies and the power that they wield, and it's hard to break. RFK Jr., I don't know. We'll see if he can make more progress in the next 3 years. Number 4, political mobilization, base expansion. So aligning MAGA and MAHA for electoral impact. So this one I think is pretty straightforward. Yes, it worked for the election. Heck yeah, that's why Trump won the election. One of the major reasons Trump won the election was the RFK Jr. endorsement. That brought on a lot of people. That was one of the big reasons that brought Joe Rogan on board. Joe Rogan brought a lot of people with him, brought Gen Z on board, Gen Z males. Unfortunately, I feel like Trump's losing that. So I think MAHA still has momentum, is still building steam. This younger generations just more and more and more are questioning the narratives around these institutions, around pharmaceutical companies, around what we've been told and taught growing up, around the traditional ways to treat cancer. Are there other ways out there in order to combat it, in order to reduce it, in order to prevent it? I think definitely in younger generations, people are asking the right questions. I think MAGA is losing that. Make America Great Again is sort of disconnecting from Make America Healthy Again. Trump needs to find a way to unite them together and to make sure that Make America Healthy Again is a part of the movement. Because if it's not, the midterms are going to be a disaster for Trump. So I would say, sure, it's for Trump, it's been a win to this point. Going forward, outlook is not good. And 5, the private sector, market opportunities for wellness growth and brand entrepreneur integration. I think that this has been very good. The merger of Make America Great Again and Make America Healthy Again has not harmed Make America Healthy Again at all. And I think they are really more and more so getting viewed. And I think this show kind of points to it, getting viewed as two separate entities. And you might see Make America Great Again reaching out and trying to grab onto the coattails of Make America Healthy Again. You are seeing absolute explosion in younger generations from people seeking alternative health treatments, from red light therapy to cold plunging to detoxes to gut health. This is why I work in this field. This is why I have a business in this field. Of course, I believe in it myself. That's the most important thing. But also, I understand what's coming. You don't have to spend too much time on Instagram or Facebook to see all of the ads. If you're around my age group, if you're 50 to 20, you are inundated with ads for preventative care, for optimizing your health with all these different treatments and all of these different ways that are not tied to the monopoly that big pharma and big food have held. And that's breaking. So this is absolutely has been a win to this point. And I think looking forward, speculative, of course, it's going to be massive. It's going to be absolutely huge. So coming back to sort of the whole point of today's show, right? Like we've seen what the Make America Great Again movement was. And we've seen what's happened in the past few months with Trump kind of losing it. The Epstein files, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, the neocons coming back into play, looking like they might be in control of Trump. We've seen Tucker rising up, questioning Donald Trump, questioning who's in control, looking at foreign agents. What's happening there? You can even look at what's happening in Mexico right now. We have a rising up of Gen Z, of the younger generation, rising up in Mexico against the new president there, the first female president and the first Jewish president in Mexican history. And you're seeing, at least what we're being told, is you're seeing them rise up against what is seen in Mexico as the cartels running things, which, I've talked with Mark Claire on my show before about that. Mark, of course, spent a lot of time in Mexico. He's married to a woman from Mexico, his wife. Talking about, yes, the people in Mexico, of course, they know that the cartels are in charge and all the politicians are corrupt. It's similar to here in the U.S., except in the U.S. we pretend that it's not like that. But it's just different. The cartels in the U.S. are the pharma and food companies. The cartels in Mexico are the drug cartels, the illegal drug cartels. So it's just different. And of course, I mean, the pharma, the major hospitals in the U.S., the insurance companies, it's just different cartels. But that's what we're dealing with. So in Mexico, it'll be interesting to watch what happens. That's why I bring that up, because I think it could have major implications. And honestly, Trump's policies around mass deportations, building a wall, could be fueling that. And, I'm not standing out here saying it's all organic and the CIA is not involved, the FBI is not involved. I have no idea. I have no idea if intelligence agencies from U.S. or any other countries are involved in what's looking like could become a revolution in Mexico. I don't even know if it's possible in the world today to have a true organic revolution. I just think there's too much at stake. Countries are too connected that there's going to be involvement. So maybe it's naive to even think that it's possible to have an organic revolution. But definitely, I think it's worth questioning, have Trump's policies by people not immigrating into the United States, young people from Mexico and staying in Mexico, maybe many returning from the U.S. into Mexico. Now they're back in Mexico. They experience life in the United States, how much more free things are, not having fear of being shot and murdered by a cartel if you're not playing along with their game. Maybe they're putting their foot down. And maybe that's where a lot of this foothold is coming from, is from people who are now in Mexico saying, hey, we're stuck here, at least for the next 3 years. What are we going to do? Are we going to just continue to get walked on by these cartels? So it's interesting. I think there's so many moving pieces. I could do a whole podcast talking about this. because there's definitely incentives for the intelligence agencies to get involved, right? Um, it's crazy. It's crazy when you start peeling back the layers to the onion. But getting back to what we're talking about here today on this show. So what's the future look like? Make America great again, make America healthy again. For me, I think health is the new battleground for freedom. I think people are starting to realize, especially people in the age group 50 to 25, people under 25, they can do whatever they want. They're healthy for the most part. At least they should be, but by by the looks of it, walking around a major airport or any place in a large public setting, you do see a lot of out of shape people, 25 and below. But anyway, um, at least at 25, they start thinking about how can I fix it. So I think people are realizing that they have the choice now. Oh, we've been lied to. We can make a change ourselves. We have the tools, we have the resources, we have the supplements, we have the coaching, you have everything you need in order to educate yourself to get healthy, right? I think people are exhausted by the political landscape right now. They're exhausted by the left and the right. They're exhausted by being talked down to by, liberal women, like that woman who interviewed Sydney Sweeney. I think men especially are so exhausted with all the political crap, and they see a path forward in taking ownership of their own health, their own finances. I think that's another. So make America healthy again, make America financially free again. I think that's another thing that's coming. Chronic illness crisis, it's unsustainable. So make America healthy again has to happen. It has to happen because we cannot continue like this as a country. You simply cannot continue pouring so many of your dollars, so many of your resources into sick care and have a prosperous nation. You can't do it. So that's why Make America Healthy Again has to win. There's no single leader. So it's diversified. It's organic, as organic as you can get in today's day and age. There are many different leaders, and there's people in the movement who don't like each other. There's people who disagree. There's great dialogue. There's great back and forth. There's people who are hardcore carnivore and people who think you shouldn't be carnivore. There's people who are hardcore keto, people who think you shouldn't be keto. There's people who are vegan, and there's people who think vegan are stupid, and vegans probably are. But I think probably there are some people out there who maybe their bodies are meant to be vegan. I do think health is very individualized. Um, Make America Healthy Again solves real problems. It gives people their life back, man. And when you solve problems, sales 101, things are going to grow, man. Things are looking up. More money flows. More money flows to problems being solved. Um, and parallel systems are emerging. So you're seeing these different health treatments. You're seeing parallel education, parallel information. You're seeing long-term cultural replacement. The trust in the institutions, the trust in higher education, it's eroding. So I think a new way forward is emerging. Just like Make America Great Again transformed the Republican Party, Make America Healthy Again is transforming how Americans live day to day. Make America Great Again is political, and I think limited to being political. Make America Healthy Again, it can be political, but it's cultural, it's health, it's lifestyle, and it's freedom, baby. So I think that whichever side is able to embrace and benefit from Make America Healthy Again on the political side, be it the Republicans, be it the Democrats, be it maybe a third party, although I think it's very unlikely a third party has any success in the United States anytime soon. Whichever side is able to capture and bottle up the marketing force that is coming with Make America Healthy Again is going to win. So people might be down on Make America Great Again now, and maybe Make America Great Again is not the future forward. If they're able to capture the MAHA movement as a piece of the MAGA movement, then maybe they can survive. Maybe they can rebrand without Donald Trump. But if not, so what? I think ultimately what matters and what's going to be lasting in this country is we are going to see a seismic shift. We are going to see dollars flow from sick care to health care, to true health care, to preventative care, to optimization care, to people living healthy and free lives, not reliant on the pharmaceutical industrial complex. That's where we're going. That's where we're going, baby. I wish I had a Make America Healthy Again hat to put on right now, but I don't. If you want to send me one, you can. Send me an email, john@lionsofliberty.com. You can mail me a Make America Healthy Again cap. I will accept it. That's the show for today's, guys. I really hope you appreciated this. Battling through losing my voice here a little bit. I'm sure you can hear it. Did not plan on talking for an hour, but I'm an idiot, so I did. And that's what I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Come back next week for a great interview. I won't say my guest's name because one of two, whichever one I interview first will be my guest next week. In the meantime, really happy with everyone who's been listening. We love the support here at Lions of Liberty on all of our shows. Please consider joining the Paula Pricks. That's our new supporters group here at Lions of Liberty. You can join on Patreon or our locals. Go check it out. Just search for Lions of Liberty. And would love to have you. Love to have you on board with the Paula Pricks. Goes with their new show, the Politics Podcast, to remind you that they are all bloodsuckers. You can hear a new episode every other week right here on the Lions of Liberty Network. And you can hear another episode of Finding Freedom next week. In the meantime, always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.